You are listening or watching the Poisoning Podcast. I'm your host, Erin DeLullo. Today, joining me is Coach Scott Cochran, also known as Coach Yeah. Scott is an 8-time national champion, winning rings at LSU, Alabama, and Georgia. He's a very successful man in college football, and he's joining us today to talk about his story and how the opioid and fentanyl crisis has affected him. Welcome to this show, Scott.
Awesome. Grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me and letting me be on and get to share some goodness today.
Oh, it's going to be a great time. I have something to admit. I was never into college football until I started working in the fentanyl and opioid space, getting naloxone and Narcan into people's hands. My parents weren't college grads, then I went to a small school in West Virginia. But maybe over a year ago, Harbor Path did PSAs with Jordan Watkins, who is an Ole Miss player. So this past weekend, I just came back from the Sooners Ole Miss game, had a great time at the Grove, and now I'm a convert to college football.
Well, that's a good team to convert to because Coach Kiffin is a close friend of mine.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And they do it well down there. They really do.
Yeah, they don't play around. That atmosphere is really special. I think it's so incredible being in LSU's my alumni, but my son has been asking me, "Do you think I should go to school at Ole Miss?" Like once a week, he asks me that. I'm like, "Are you kidding? Like, we live in Athens. Like, every Georgia school is free. You want to go to Ole Miss? Like, come on." So it's been pretty fun.
Well, maybe you can join me next year at a game. We all have a 10 at the Grove. It's a good time.
Yes, definitely.
Well, we have you here today to talk about your story. So you, very accomplished football coach, and we were talking pre-taping, a little calmer than what we were used to seeing years ago. And I have a big personality. I think I'm the loud one in my household. So let's start there. And what led you to addiction?
Yeah. It's really cool to be on right now, first off, and I want to appreciate you for letting me on. This is really cool. And anytime I get to talk about, my path, maybe I can help one person. And that's really what it's all about. That's why I left coaching. But I started off at LSU. I worked for Coach Saban for 18 years. And I did a little time in the NBA. I was a strength coach in the NBA. And I get to Alabama, and I'm 27 years old. Coach Saban asked me to be the head strength coach. And so,
Wow.
at the time, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I'm going to give it everything I got. It's just like any job. When you're young, you just go all in. And so I went all in, moved the family there, had my son the first year, my oldest, and by about 2010, this was 2007 when we took the job. By 2010, I started getting these really bad headaches. So bad that like I went to the speech therapist on campus. She had a whole like department for this, and they filmed me yelling. They filmed me doing this, and they're like, "You don't use your vocal cords. You use your entire back, legs, calves, neck." Everything is that way. And so I was like, okay, so I got to figure this out. So I went to doctors. They tried everything. They were really good to me. They did the blood thinners. They did the beta blockers. They tried it all. I did acupuncture, and it was so bad that nothing was working. And so finally, they started me off with Vicodin, and I was like, man, this is pretty good, but every morning and every night, my headache comes back even worse. And so then they put me on Oxy. And when they did this was the crazy part, is when they did this, they said to me, and this is 2012 when they finally get to the Oxy, they said, hey, this is really addictive. You have to be very careful. And look, I'm a head strength coach. I've got national championship rings. I'm on ESPN. 60 minutes is, I do a whole series, not a series, a whole episode with 60 minutes. Like, I'm strength coach of the year multiple times. Financially, I am, at the peak in a place I've never dreamed of. And you're going to tell me the mental, physical toughness coach can't handle some pill, right? I'm not going to get addicted. That's crazy talk. So fast forward, that doc shuts me off and I have to go to multiple docs outside of my normal realm, outside of coaching, our coaching circle of doctors, right? I had to go outside of that. I had one in Alabama, I had one in Mississippi. And
So
they were, yeah,
can I, if I may?
yes.
So you were first prescribed Oxy in 2012, which is
Mhm.
the second wave of the epidemic. Everyone knows how bad these pills are. There are over 1 million new addicts created before then, when it started in around 1999. So I'm sort of shocked the doctor gave you that many to begin with.
Right.
And that were you given naloxone when they gave you those pills? No.
No, I had
Okay.
never heard of that.
Ah, okay.
I had never heard of anything like that. And it was, I mean, listen, when you're in a position of power like I
Sure.
was, you can manipulate doctors who are fans,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can say, "Hey, your family needs tickets to a game. I need you to keep writing me this script." You find
Yeah.
a way when you're an addict and when you really you have no choice. The
Yeah.
way I like to explain it, especially to people who don't struggle, right, is try not breathing, uh, and do it for a minute. Hold your breath for a minute, and then when you take that first breath of air after a minute, that feeling of I'm okay is
Yeah.
what the drug feels like. When you try to stop, you feel like you can't breathe, nothing works, everything is chaotic, your mind is fighting, your body is going through withdrawals, and then all of a sudden, you're like, I can stop, I can stop, I can stop, I can stop this. I
Right.
have mental toughness. I'm the toughest guy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And and then it's like, is it mental toughness? No, it has nothing to do with that. But I had to learn the hard way. So in 2018, I'm up to close to 30 pills a day, and I'm taking them all through my nose. Um,
And is this still from doctors, like basically getting them from doctors, or are you getting them on the street then?
both. So I
Wow.
still had I still had my scripts coming in, but it wasn't enough, right? If I had
Yeah.
a doc writing me 90 a month and another doc writing me 120 a month, 30 milligram oxys, and it wasn't enough, because that doesn't even cover 10 pills a day, and I was up to 15, 20, 30 pills a day, and
Mm.
it's hard to talk about because it's a little bit embarrassing, but that's really why I'm doing this, is to get people to understand that it's okay to struggle and it's okay to ask for help. um, so my idea, I have this issue, no one knows about it, my wife doesn't know, my friends don't, nobody knows,
Do
I
you
think
think they thought it may have been like just the stress of success and all your winning and just keeping up with that?
I think you you don't allow people in, right?
Okay.
You just don't. In that phase of my life, my ego was so big. It was
Mm.
all about me winning championships. That's all I cared about. I wanted to look, my goals were insane, right? My goals were, I wanted to win 10 national championships. I wanted to develop 50 first rounders, and I wanted to make X amount of dollars. And I crushed all of those except for one, right? Because I
Mm.
only have 8 national championships. But like, having that drive, it kind of like, if you weren't a part of that, I kind of removed you. And if you were going to get in the way of me performing at the level, because I was a high performer,
Yeah.
had a lot of success. I was killing it, like killing it. Uh, and so I decided in 2020, I got to leave Tuscaloosa. That's the answer. I got to leave Alabama because that's where my problems are. You
Because it
know,
wasn't you, it
correct.
was geography.
Yeah, geographic location, complete job change. I go from being a strength coach to a special teams coordinator at Georgia, and
Yeah.
that'll fix me, right? That'll fix me. And that happens, I think it's February or March of 2020. Um, it must have been February. COVID hits. So we're doing everything by Zoom. And April 10th, 2020, my wife found me dead. I had overdosed. So here's this crazy successful,
Yeah.
3 beautiful children that are healthy, a gorgeous wife who is all in on, you know, me trying to be a head coach because that was the ultimate goal, right?
Right.
Doing the special teams, moving to Athens, doing all these things, and she finds her husband dead.
And
Um,
you were on like a Zoom or
yes,
Teams meeting call when you
correct.
overdosed, right?
Yes, I was actually on a Zoom call with the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
Uh, it must have just ended. I had my staff on there. It must have just I don't know because no one ever found out. I don't know if I hit the computer, I don't know how that worked. I can't explain that one. That's just the last thing I remember. Was being on that Zoom call. And then they came in and the EMTs came in. My wife called. They thought it was a heart attack, and then they thought it was a stroke. Uh,
Right.
it took a minute for them to realize he's overdosed, uh, and so they gave me the Narcan. Um, and I don't know if that worked. They said that it didn't really work
Yeah.
because I guess it was past the 4 minute mark. Um, and so when I came to, I was in the hospital, and it was about 48 hours later when I was
Okay.
functioning. And when I came to, I knew the doc, right? Because being in the profession I'm in, you just know everybody, right? And it's small towns, right? We're talking about Athens, Georgia. We're talking about Tuscaloosa, Alabama, like
Yeah.
really small towns where you kind of know who the docs are because of football. Um, and so I come to, I ask the doc, like, hey, you think maybe like you could help me get through the next couple of days, give me something, right? And he goes, dude, you were dead. I'm not giving you anything. Like, you need to get help. And I was like, okay, good luck. I gotta work, right?
Right. Because you're so highly successful, that's just the focus. Um, may I ask, did they
Yeah.
tell you how many doses of Narcan or naloxone they used and what types?
I do not know.
Okay.
I I know the doc. I can find out.
That's all
Uh,
right. I mean, did they only just use the nasal? I thought I may
I
have
think
heard
they did use the shot.
the intermuscular,
The
it's like an epi.
intermuscular in the thigh. They did use that.
That is something we at Harbor Path advocate a lot for. When we talk to doctor, my last interview was with an emergency medical doctor, and she says when she uses Zimhai, which is looks like an EpiPen, you put it in the thigh, she doesn't have to use anything else. Like it just goes right into the body.
Yeah,
So it's I'm glad that they had it. It's sadly only prescription
yeah,
based.
yeah. And you know, because I'm not, I guess, well versed in it. I
That's all
do know
right.
a couple of things that we're going to talk about with the xylazine
Yeah.
that we've found recently. But so I go to rehab. It's
Yeah.
COVID. Nobody knows, right? It's just me and my
Right.
wife. My wife knows. She stays in. We were actually in Tuscaloosa during that period because of COVID, and I'm zooming from rehab. And so I come out of rehab. I feel like, oh man, I got this burden lifted off of me. Let me go chase my dreams again.
You
And
conquered it. You
yeah,
conquered
I
it, right? That's how
conquered
you
it. That's
felt.
right. I'm
Yeah,
cured. I'm cured.
that's right.
And so I 2 months. I last 2 months, and I'm right back to it. But now I'm not doing it for headaches, right? Like
Okay.
now I don't have that excuse. Now it's like, okay, I'm not comfortable. I can't get right. Things are crazy. I can't function this way. I know how to fix this. And now, when you go to rehab, most rehabs tell the docs that you're getting prescribed from, never write something for them. And if you ever do, we're sending the FBI after you, right? So I had no more docs.
Yeah.
And so this is where my addiction to fentanyl comes in, um, because it's really all that was on the street.
You weren't looking for it. You were just looking for the high. Like you didn't say, did you wake up and say, I want fentanyl? Or were you just like, I need access to the pills that feed my addiction?
I would love to lie and
Okay.
say that I didn't know that it was fentanyl.
Sure.
I'd love to be able to look you in the eyes and say that, but I can't.
Mm.
At first, that's what I was looking
Yeah.
for was
Wow.
Percocet. I was like, I need to find perks, the blue ones, and then I realized that I was getting this powdery stuff. It
Mm.
was a little different, um, and the high was higher,
Yeah.
but it didn't last, right? So now
Hmm.
my pill
Anymore.
intake is close to 40 to 50 pills a day because it's so short lived, right? And so I'm dealing with three different like dealers separately so that they don't know how messed up I am. I have a go in between for each one so nobody knows it's me. And I was actively seeking fentanyl. And
Wow.
it's disgusting. It's sad because it
Well,
kills
it's
you.
just so risky. That's all. Like, I feel like, wow.
And it's just it's awful, right? Like to think
Hmm.
about it because it can kill you. And I was under the impression that again, that'll kill them. I'm
Hmm.
I'm crazy successful, right?
Yeah.
Like that wasn't an overdose, like your mind plays tricks on you. It's the only disease that your mind actually tells you, you don't have this disease, right? If it was
Hmm.
cancer, if I had, if I was diabetic, there's nowhere in my mind that it would say, you don't have that. You're good.
Hmm.
It's the only disease that does that. And so in 2021, I'm sick of it. I can't function without it. I want to go back to rehab. I go
Hmm.
back to rehab. I do a 100-day deal. They drug test me right when I get there, and they had carfentanil and norfentanil in my system. Uh, no Adderall, no Oxy, no nothing else. It was just those two. And so they told me because I thought I was just going to go for a couple of days, right? I did a 30-day spill. I lasted 2 months. Now I'm grown. Money's not that easily accessible to get as much money as I needed to feed this habit. There's no way I'll go back. And then when
Hmm.
they told me the drug test, I was like, okay. And they said, you need extended stay. So I stayed
Hmm.
for 100 days. It was beautiful. I got better. Came back, went back to campus at Georgia, and we won 2 national championships. I was sober through it. Uh, I I say sober because that's what I was. I was more
Okay.
of a dry drunk. I went to AA meetings every
Hmm.
day. I did the deal. I chaired meetings. I was vocal. Everyone knew I was in recovery. I told the team. I actually gave the team a whole talk on addiction. Uh, Everything was looking good, but inside I was holding on for dear life.
Were you also having a problem with alcohol?
No, I haven't.
Mm.
No, I haven't drank since that overdose in 2020
Wow. Okay.
because I know I have a problem with it. Like
Yeah.
I've always known like I've never had a couple of drinks. It's always been all the way. It was never enough. So at that overdose, I thought the only way to get through the withdrawals was to drink alcohol before I went to rehab. So that was the
During
last.
this,
Yeah.
sorry, during this time of sobriety, were
Mm-hmm.
you still getting headaches? Like, when did they stop?
They would come and go, and it's interesting because like when I would yell, which is part of the job, which is a beautiful part of the job, but for me
Hmm.
when I would yell, I would like
Right.
kind of go black and see stars, like air wasn't getting where it was supposed to go.
Oh.
uh, and so I was just way more controlled, and as a special teams coordinator I didn't need to yell that much,
Mm.
so I
Okay.
could control it a little bit, so I was okay. I didn't have the headaches. And that's the part that I think people need to realize, like I am a human being. I am a successful human being, and the headaches were not the reason why I became an addict, right? And that's the
Hmm.
part that, like, I would just want people to know that this thing doesn't care, right? It doesn't care if you are, you know, in the penthouse, the outhouse, penitentiary. It does. This disease does not care. And I don't want to use the headaches as an excuse,
Sure.
uh, but like I just want people to know, like it can happen to whomever. It doesn't have to be. It can
Very
be
true.
anything uh, that triggers it, and there's, one pill can kill, and I believe that. I do believe that.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if I believe. I don't know if I believe some of these police officers that tell me they put on these masks and they wear gloves when they're making an arrest because there's fentanyl in there and they don't want to touch it because they could die. It may be true, but I think that that is part of the dare, the old school dare that I grew up listening to. Don't touch drugs because it'll kill you. Um, like, I think it's a scare tactic, so I'm hoping that you can enlighten me on that at some point.
It is a very a topic of debate right now. I've
Yes.
had a guest, the head of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, a good friend of mine, and we used to work together. And he has had an officer that they have brought back with naloxone.
Mm,
Um, but and then I'll have a doctor say, well, possibly. If their skin was wet, so were they sweating and were they touching a lot of fentanyl? I don't
right.
know. I mean, I think there are a lot of sort of gray areas that we don't have 100% answers on.
Right.
Um, I do agree with you that I mean, there's the old school way of thinking about drugs, and it hasn't worked. So we need to find some new answers and new solutions.
Right. And and I know that's like off topic, but that just,
Right.
you know, being being in recovery now, I
Hmm.
just there's so many people struggling out there. Gosh. Like
Yeah.
literally this morning, right? This morning I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. And I've
Great.
talked to three separate people this morning. One is in San Diego, and I got him to a rehab. Or at least I have it all set up. They're going to go pick him up today. The other two, they're phone calls. Their mom's calling, their spouse is calling. What do we do? One's in Texas, and the other one's in Florida. What do we do? And that's where I feel like God has put me in this position when I thought my goals were national championships, making money, and I thought that's what I was here for.
Mm.
My goals have completely shifted, and my life has shifted, and that's why we were talking before about the microphone. Like, do you have a microphone? And I'm like, well, in the past, I would say I don't need one because I'm loud, right?
Right. I
but
get it. I get it.
but now I kind of have this different spirit, this different uh, mindset. Like before this, I did a meditation, like a real meditation,
Nice.
um, and like I'm just really working to help people, and I love what y'all are doing, and
Thank
so
you.
I want to dig in.
So you are sober how long now?
9 months, 9 months,
9 months.
because I had a
Congratulations.
setback in 2023 during the season.
Hmm.
Um, and listen, it's hard to talk about that setback because in my world, right, like I constantly feel like uh I have to clarify, like I'm not 3 years, 4 years where I should be after that 2021 rehab stint. After I had 2.5 years of sobriety, I had a setback. And
Hmm.
you know, it's been hard to wear that as a badge of honor because I'm happy about my 9 months, and it's hard to talk to people because they're like, in my head, and this is my addict brain, right? My head says you're not worthy enough to be on this podcast because you only have 9 months. Like that's what the addict brain tells me, right? Is that I'm not worthy to be on this podcast right now because I only have 9 months. Who is going to listen to me, right? But
Right.
that's a load of BS, right? Like
You have
that
to
is a
fight it.
load of yeah. And so I have to, do extra stuff. I have to ask God to, give me some grace, give me some, you know, give me the words that maybe we can help somebody today, or maybe we can get some legislation done in the future that puts overdose kits across the country, because that's one
Amen.
of my biggest goals right now is what are we waiting for?
There you
Yes.
go. There's a little shiny one.
Yes.
These are the ones we put out.
I love
So
it.
all about it. So where do you keep naloxone or Narcan?
I have it in my car.
Good.
Yep, I have it in my car. I want it available to me because it's just no way to
Or
listen. They try.
anyone. You want it available to anyone if you're in
Yes,
that
yes,
situation.
yes, yes. I feel like the obsession is lifted out of my life. I'm not really like I go into very,
Mhm.
I guess would call sketchy situations. I go to harm reduction centers, and because I want to be able to stand on all 10 toes to say whether or not I believe in harm reduction therapy. Because I don't know. I can't sit here and say I'm all in. I can't sit here and say because I used to. I'm grown up conservative. I used to say no way should tax dollars be paying for something like that. But then I went to Kensington. I went to
Mhm.
Kensington, Philadelphia, and you can't tell me the same. Like those
Right.
lives aren't worth saving. Like what the Savage Sisters are doing in Kensington. Like people need to look up what they are doing. They are saving
Yeah.
lives. Uh, and then I'm going to the tunnels in December in Las Vegas. Like I want to see like what is real and what is my head telling me, right? I want to be able to speak from my truth. I want to be able to speak with experience of how I believe things should be done because when it comes to this is all
Yeah.
about legislation, right? They're going to ask me, right? These people are going to ask. They're going to say, "Okay, well what do you think about harm reduction?" And right now, I would say I'm still in the gathering phase, you know?
And it means so many different things.
Correct.
There's not one encompassing definition of harm.
Right.
There are different parts of harm reduction. Now,
Correct.
how has the football community embraced you? Is this been like, oh, we don't want to talk to Coach Scott Cochran anymore, or they wrap their arms around you? I'd love to know.
Yeah, they've been really good. I
That's
would
great.
say Coach Saban has been incredible. And then I have a lot of friends that are head coaches and then a lot of friends that are assistant coaches that have really embraced me as much as they can, right? Because they're still in
Sure.
that world of win or get fired, you know? So it's hard for them to do more, and I don't need them to do more. I've spoken to. I'm actually going to Sanford in Birmingham
Oh,
today
great.
to speak to the athletic director because listen, when you say, "Hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to tell my story,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to coach your athletes up on about drug abuse," they get a little bit nervous, because some ads are like, "We don't have that problem," right?
No, a lot of colleges, while they may have, naloxone, Narcan in the nurses or the medical center, they never want to talk about the statistics of
Right?
drug use or overdose on campus because they think it will hurt their reputation.
And this is the
Mhm.
interesting thing about the Narcan boxes, right? Um, there are high schools across the state that are afraid to put it up
Mm,
in their high school because they have a really good athletic program. And as they're walking that family in the building, they're
oh,
afraid, oh, wait, y'all have a drug problem? We went to this other school right down the street. They didn't have that up.
hmm,
And so it has to come from above. It has to come from legislative that, listen, between the ages, this is last year's statistic, and it's going to change. Between the ages of 18 to 45, it's the number one cause of death.
yep,
By next year, it's going to be 16 to 50. I mean, we know this. Like, it's in high schools. And all it takes is that little vape, right? They get that
yeah,
vape pen, and hey, I'm gonna go in the bathroom. You watch out. They hit the vape. Oh no, my friend's down. They're not gonna go run to the teacher, but they're also gonna know something was in that. I saw the Narcan box. I saw it over there. I know it's a nasal spray. Someone like all you have to do is educate them. It's like Afrin. I can go put this in my friend's nose. Yes, we may get in trouble, but he'll live,
I've-
and I won't have that on my conscience. Like it's such an easy deal. And in the state of Georgia, it is. It's in all high schools. It's going to be put in all high schools. Governor Kemp signed it. Senator Britt in Alabama, where I am today,
mhm.
she is all in for it. I've talked to multiple different people in the house, and they're all for it. My nonprofit with you, whoever, I don't care. I'm not like, this is the thing. Like, there's so many other like groups that look at my new group and they're like, oh, this is our space. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm in.
Territorial.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, dude, I'm not asking for your money. I don't want federal grants. I'm not in, like, I'm good. Like I'm gonna do my donations through people I know that have been affected by this disease. Um, we're not competing. Like, I want y'all to come join us, or we'll come join. I don't care. I want to save lives. Uh,
Exactly.
that's what matters to me. I want to eliminate some stigma around this, and that's why I think our
Yes.
website is really a cool name, because it's eliminatethewhisper.com, right? Like, we're trying to eliminate the stigma, eliminate this facade that the only people struggling are the people under the bridge.
I don't even think we know the real numbers of overdose deaths
Thank
over
you.
the years because people didn't want to do the autopsies
I
because they
love
were
that.
embarrassed of the cause.
Yeah. And
So our
September, right? September's Recovery Month, but it's
Mhm.
also Suicide Awareness Month.
Yeah,
And you're telling me what percentage do you think those are connected? Like, let's
right,
get real.
110.
Like,
110.
and I've talked to a bunch of VAs, my dad's a VA. He's a veteran, and they all hear about their friends, and they all talk about the substance or alcohol abuse before the time that they have made that final decision. And God, it's just, I'm sick of, I'm done winning championships. I want to save lives. Like, those are my new rings, right? Like,
Yeah.
that gives me a purpose, because I should not be here. I'm on borrowed time, I'm on bonus time. In New Orleans, we call it lagniappe. Lagniappe,
Yeah.
it's French, means a little something extra. Like, that's the world I'm in right now. And so, like, yeah, I'm getting excited, right? Talking on, like, now you can hear my
Yeah.
juice, right? Because, like, I've found a reason to recover, a reason to be here. And it's to help others. It's to be a good husband and father. It's to put, God in my life and keep him first. And I know that that's hard to talk about on podcasts. I got to be real careful, because there has been some shutdown on some
Oh,
interviews and some phone calls because I speak of God, and that. So I'm trying, I tread lightly.
you can say whatever you want here. It's like no judgment space. No
I love
judgment
that.
space.
I love it.
Let's talk about your lovely wife.
Yeah.
What was her experience like when you were going through these struggles?
She felt
Because she had
alone.
her own, right? She had her
Yes.
own to deal with.
Yes. She felt alone.
Mm,
Especially after the overdose. She told, my family, she told her family, knew they lived close by. Um, and her family really stepped up. My family was out of town. They didn't know how to handle it. The friends that she, made kept their distance. I stole this from a lady in an Al-Anon meeting. She she said, when her husband went to rehab, nobody brought her a casserole.
mm,
Uh, and I think that is very, like, that's that's a great way to put it, right? And so my wife was kind of, she was really questioning, like, what do you think? Like, she's questioning, did she do something wrong to cause me to have an addiction, right? My parents are like, I don't want to get around that because, did we do something wrong? Like, everybody questions, did they do something wrong? And so she was, very isolated. Even when I
mm.
went public and said I'm going to rehab, she still felt, on an island. So she's really strong. You'd never hear her complain, never hear her talk about she got deep into Al-Anon, and in her Al-Anon group, they get chips, and she's got a 2-year chip. So she's like 2.5 years deep into the Al-Anon program. And that has helped her with, the codependent side. That has helped her manage, life, and
Good.
so she is an angel from heaven because, to deal with, my shenanigans is what she likes to call
Yeah.
it.
She sounds like an angel.
Yes, she is an angel.
So one of the things I enjoy following on your social media is your strength workouts. So are you finding comfort in them? Do you find that
Yes.
it helps you with your recovery? We in this journey of the poisoning, I interviewed a gentleman named Dale King, who's in Portsmouth, Ohio. He runs a CrossFit. He's a veteran, runs a CrossFit operation, and he is partnered with a counseling center. So they help addicts by getting them into a program, but then putting them into CrossFit, which gives them goals to hit. I mean, turning like camaraderie, community, people whose bodies had just been almost destroyed by the addiction come out like muscular trainers. And he has applied for a grant through the opioid commission in his state. And, praying, fingers crossed, because I think we have to think outside of the box. Yes, they're great in treatment programs, especially if you can afford them, but we need to also, with this settlement dollars, be funding recovery programs that are new and try them. Because as you've experienced and the statistics show, it usually takes more than once. So
Yes.
tell me if you think if strength, I also work out with an aspiring pro lifter. He's 20 years
Yes.
younger than me. So he's
Yes.
very built. And I enjoy weights a lot, much more than
Good.
cardio. So seeing your like posts, I'm like, oh, I'd love to work out with Coach Ass sometime. I don't know if I could survive it.
Listen, I wish look. I have one daughter who
Yeah.
loves my oldest. My oldest is my son, and my 16-year-old daughter, 17 and 16. They both love to work out with me. Now, my youngest is still not there yet, but they love it. Whereas to get my youngest to come down there, she's 13, and it's not her baby. But I can. This is where it's interesting because being a strength coach for 20 years of my career. I was not personally invested in the weight room for
Oh,
myself. Yeah, it was a very love-hate relationship for me. There were times when I was like, okay, I'm a player. I'd start wrestling with a player, and he'd manhandle me, and I'm like, okay. And I'm in active addiction, so I'm getting skinny, right? I'm like,
yeah.
okay, I can't function like this. There's no way I can have a wide receiver manhandle me, right? So like I would get in the gym and for a year I'd be motivated to do it. Uh, but now in recovery, I've it's really simple for me. Like I try to tell people in recovery or people that are in rehab, like just start walking, right? Just
Mm, yeah.
start walking, right? Like I do the row machine every day, and it makes no sense. I don't know how I found it. I have no idea where it even, like, why would I even get on a row machine? I have no clue. Uh, but it's a non-negotiable for me. So every day, even when I'm on the road, like I go to a fitness place, I will go there tonight. I went for a walk this morning because there's hills in Birmingham, so that was
Yeah.
cool. But I will go and row for 30 minutes because for me, it's a peaceful experience. I have to use both hands. I have to use both feet, right? So I can't mess with my phone. I can't mess with anything. It's just my time. And I don't do it like I just started. This is pretty cool. I just started lifting about a month, maybe 2 months ago. I finally got the motivation, I guess, or like
Hmm.
the I got the side of like, dude, you're a strength coach. You should be lifting the world, right? Like I got that out of my head, and like it's not as depressing when I'm on there and I'm just benching a little bit of weight, right? It's not as depressing for me. So now I'm actually enjoying that. Like to me, it's finding things you enjoy in recovery, and you know. In active addiction, you're chasing a high. What I thought I was doing when I first started doing the row machine, which was in 2021 when I was, getting my first time getting really sober. I thought I was chasing an endorphin high, you
Mm.
know. And so I was taking a bunch of pre-workout, I was taking 300 milligrams of caffeine just to get on it. And I'm like
Ooh.
looking for that juice. Give me that juice. Give me that fire. And it was just like, what am I doing this for? Like now it's just, it makes me feel good. It's not pressure, right? Like I tell people, just do 10 minutes. Just start with 10 minutes. Like literally, like do 10 minutes. What do you have to
Yeah.
lose? And if you do that for 4 days this week, wow, you did 40 minutes more than you did the last 3 years. The last 3 years. And all you did was 10 minutes for 4 days. Well, you can do
Hmm.
that. You don't even have to change. You don't have to change your clothes. If you're working, find a way to go walk in the parking lot for 10 minutes. Like, and just let the miracle happen. Like I never thought I would touch a weight again. No shot. I,
Wow.
I never thought there would be no way. Like my body doesn't like it. Da, 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 da. I had all
Yeah.
these excuses, and now it's like, man, really enjoying it. You know, I
Oh,
mean,
wonderful.
my clothes fit a little bit better. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Good. That's very good. That's one of my reasons for doing it.
Of course.
So here's a question.
Yes.
Does being at your peak in football, can you live a well-balanced life and be, a championship winner? And it,
I, personally,
yeah.
no, I
Okay.
couldn't. I've discussed this quite a bit with coaches because they're trying to find that balance. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of coaches that I have been jealous of over the years, and I couldn't understand them, that it was a
Mm.
job. I never understood them. I couldn't relate to them. I wasn't friends with them. Uh, but it was just a job, right? Like they didn't live, die. Like I would get home, and because I had conversations with players in my office and they were struggling with something, I would get home, and at 7 o'clock, when I'm supposed to spend some time with my family, a parent would call to talk about that same son's issue. And because I cared about the kids, right? And my kids are fine, right? They got mama, we got money. Man, they don't need me, like
Right.
they don't need dad,
Mm.
like this kid needs me. Like this kid that's going to be in my life for 3 or 4 years and then I'll never hear from him again. Like this
Yeah.
kid's more important. And so like I've never been able to set those boundaries. And my family paid the price. And I'm building that back, and it's a beautiful thing. I get to spend a lot of time with my kids right now. It's not as
That's
pretty
great.
as it used to be on the outside, but on the inside, it's beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of belly laughs in my house. Uh,
But it seems that prettiness was a lot of pretending.
all pretending. It was a fraud.
Yeah,
It was the
exactly.
white picket fence fraud. That's probably what I should name
There
it.
you coined it first. We'll say it here on the poisoning. There you go.
But it
Oh,
it was so fake, and I thought because I was around, being a strength coach, you leave at the crack of dawn, you're 4 a.m. out the door, but you're home every night by 8 p.m., right? So you do get to do bath time, or you do
sure.
get to watch TV, check on how they're doing. You miss all their sports, but like as a strength coach, that's kind of the life. Well, there are strength coaches, very successful strength coaches that go to work at 5 instead of 4 a.m. and they go home at like 3:30. And I just
That's great.
that wasn't an option for me.
Yeah.
I tried. I really did. I really tried. And it drove me crazy. I felt inadequate. I felt like I wasn't doing enough because I never felt like I was really good at my job, right? I had that insecure feeling all the time.
How many rings and you were never really good at your job?
It's crazy, but like that was how I felt. Like I
Yeah.
still had the mindset of that 27-year-old walking in the door in
Mm,
2007. You're not good enough to have this position. You're too young. How are you gonna manage all this stuff? I have to do more. I have to outwork everyone. Um, I have to give every player all my attention, all my being, and my family sacrificed. And now listen, they, I say they sacrificed. They're great. I'm there now,
Yeah.
right? I'm present
That's what
today.
matters.
Yes. Like right after I resigned, my 16-year-old daughter tears her ACL.
Oh,
You tell me, like, okay, that is a devastating time for a 16-year-old girl, for sure. My God, right? Like, she's already like the braces just came off, like she's finally feeling pretty, like
hmm
all the stuff. And dad is gonna be with me
all
to
in her business.
go through this
Yeah.
process. Like, you tell me God didn't put that in my lap to say, like,
Yeah.
you made the right decision. Like, God said, hey, let me show you how important your decision to leave football was. Look at this.
hmm
I mean, I can tell you this is a funny story since we're talking about my daughter. She was so nervous about boys uh, that I grabbed her phone while she was doing rehab. And I had a feeling the boy kind of liked her. She's very pretty. And I had a feeling the boy probably liked her, and they just weren't texting. And so I said, give me your phone. I'm going to text him. And she's like,
I love
what?
this.
I'm like, yes. I was like, this is how it works. Like, boys are scared. Like, I don't know what happened to boys, but they're scared. I said, and they're especially scared of pretty girls. So let me
Yes.
just open the door for you. I said, I'll let you read it after I type it, but this is what we're going to do. So I texted this boy, I texted this boy for her, and they ended up going to homecoming together. But like, like that that moment for me, like, I'm proud. Like, I know I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be big tough dad. No one touches my daughter, right? No, I don't. Like, I want my daughter happy and healthy. I want her to be
Yeah.
loved, right? Like, I want all the stuff. And like, those are the moments that recovery has done for me. And why not help the next person find those moments?
Yes. So let's talk about AARA. What does it stand for? And I know you have like what, four goals, maybe
Yes.
four highlighted goals. Let's
Yes.
go through those.
Okay, great. It's American Addiction Recovery Association. You can find us eliminatethewhisper.com.
Right.
So we have four big objectives. And number one is to visit all 50 states.
Right.
We want to get in vans and we want to go to every capital, and this is where number two comes into play. We want to get Narcan in every capital, and we want them to know, hey, we exist. We're going to come back if you
Mm-hmm.
don't pass the laws necessary to get this in every high school across the state. So that's our number one and number two objective, is to go to
Correct.
all 50 capitals and get Narcan boxes. I don't care if it's your, company. I don't care if I could, no offense to anybody, but I want everybody involved. I
Right.
want,
Right.
I want an army. Like, I don't want just the Army. I want Navy, Marines. Like, I want them all. I want every organization, even with their flaws and even with their positive. I want it all.
You want to save lives.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Um, and then my favorite project, because I really believe this will eliminate the whisper, eliminate the stigma. Uh, Nike has promised me, I haven't gotten a contract done,
hmm
but they have promised me 10 to 15 teams in the month of September are going to wear purple.
Oh,
Uh,
that's great.
and purple is the color of recovery, and
Yes.
September is the month. So our goal is to make, how pink's cool in October for breast cancer.
Right.
We want to make purple cool in September, right? We want pink to still stay cool in October, because
Yeah.
I love that everything that Susan G. Komen has done. It's incredible. We've taken her model, and that's what we're trying to do. So we want to get purple in every high school, every college. I've got some NFL players, obviously a bunch that I've coached, but I've got some NFL players that said, hey, if you get some purple mouthpieces, if you get purple bands, I will represent in the month of September next year. Like, I want the conversation gearing towards recovery. And people just need to know they're not alone, so that they can raise their hand and say, hey, I need help, and not be fired that day, you know? And that leads to the fourth thing. We want to go into the faith community. We want to go to organizations, and we want to help them create a friendly recovery work environment. um, to let people know that in recovery, they work hard. They're good people. They do have flaws just like everybody else. But because they're in recovery, they shouldn't be shunned if
Hmm.
they have a setback at work. Here's an HR plan. Like we have given HR plans to multiple companies and they could take it, chop it up. They can do whatever they want. But we just took what the Air Force gave Delta. Uh, they have a really good plan for their
Oh, wow.
pilots. Yeah, they do a really good job. If a pilot goes to HR and says, "Hey, I'm struggling," they pay for 90 days of them to get treatment. When they come back, nurses, most hospitals have this very similar deal too. When they come back, they are put into a program where they have to go to certain meetings a week and they get random drug tests. If they
Mm,
have a setback, they have to take a leave of absence, they have to pay for their own treatment, and they get another 90 days, but their job is
there.
available when they get clean. Um, so
And that's
those are,
one of the hard parts of recovery. I've interviewed many people who've run recovery centers. You come out of recovery needing employment, healthcare. You may have an infectious disease, depending on the type of drug. I mean, you have a lot of hurdles to overcome to stay sober.
and that's before somebody that's going in with a DUI. You
Yeah.
know, that's before you're talking even law. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were working
The
with a
courts.
company in we were working with a company in Georgia, and they are 70% occupancy of employees. They they don't understand where to find employees. They can't find any. And I said, let me just throw this at you. But I bet you there's a process in your application where it says convicted of any type of deal. And if that person is in recovery and they put a check, they are automatically, you don't even know they applied. They're like, I don't know. And so we've done the history now. And so all because AI is so big, it's a checkbox, right? And I'm not saying like you should have your own rules, your own company, but you're missing out on some really good employees that are trying to fix their life after something happened, after a rock bottom, is what everybody likes to call it, rock bottom incident. And so it's just education. And I'm just excited that, I've worked for Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. Because of their rules, I was never able to speak on any podcast on any
Mm,
of these things without their permission. And now, and that was one of the big reasons why I was like, how am I going to help people being a coach when I need to be all in coaching? Maybe if I half step, right? So now I have the opportunity to scream at the top of my lungs that recovery is real, that people are getting better, but you also have to be willing to say, I just raise your hand, say, I need help. It's 3 words, I need help. Instead of, I'm going to go hide, I'm going to go
mm-hmm.
isolate. No one's going to understand. I'm going to get fired. That's what I hear every day when I try to help people. Because all of my social media, I'm at Coach Yeah. That's all my social media. And I tell people, just DM me if you're struggling. And that's all you have to say. I'm struggling. You say that in a DM to me, I will send you my phone number. I will reach out to you and we will get you help. I don't care, right? I know, like, God's blessed me to be alive. Let me help. And so that's what I'm here for.
Amazing story, Coach. Amazing story and great work. And thank you for coming on The Poisoning.
No, thank you. I enjoyed it.